What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video on the channel. I finally got a haircut. You might have noticed that in my previous videos on my series, but I get one once a year. But we're getting off topic. Today I wanted to talk about, since the Artemis II mission has nearly concluded. I mean, they still got to re-enter the Earth atmosphere and all that. Since the Artemis II mission had started, a lot of people are bringing up the old debate. Did the United States land on the moon back in the 70s? And a lot of people have one of two arguments. They either think it was faked entirely and that it was all a hoax, or two, there was no way that they could even have attempted to go to the moon when we haven't been able to go back since. And my response for the latter take is that the reason why, and if you think about it for a second and take the tinfoil cap off and drop the conspiracy theorist act, it kind of makes sense. A lot of the takes don't make sense, and a lot of it boils down to them just saying yeah, I don't believe. And the first thing is, the reason why the United States has not attempted to land on the moon since they did it back in the 70s and stuff is because there has been no political reason to do so. See, back in the 70s and 60s, the Cold War was raging hot. You know what I'm saying? There was a big competition between the Soviet Union and the United States and NATO countries, but mainly the United States and the Soviet Union. And what the Soviets were able to do was to send the first satellite into space, and then they were able to send the first man into space, and they were able to do this first spacewalk. They did a bunch of things, but the one thing the United States was able to do first was to land on the moon, and that was a huge accomplishment and a show that capitalism is superior to communism. But since then, there has been nothing of the sort that has happened since then that has really needed the United States to undertake landing on the moon once again. You know what I mean? There was a whole competition, and since then there has been no competition since, because the next step up is what, Mars. We haven't been able to figure out how to have, as doesn't it's not like we don't have the technology to land on Mars, is the fact that we don't have, our human bodies is incapable of lasting that long in such low gravity environments. It messes with your blood and stuff and organs. I don't really know everything about it, but that is one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, why we have not been able to make it to Mars. We have the technology to do so, but a lot of people think that we haven't had the technology to do so again, and that kind of goes around the take, why are we not landing on the moon now with Artemis 2? Why didn't we just go land on the moon now? And my answer to that is, the reason why they ain't landing on the moon yet for the Artemis 2 mission is because they need to test out the rocket's functionality and make sure they can actually get there, make sure all the systems work optimally, and they're able to at least achieve a somewhat of an orbit and intercept the moon before trying to actually go forth and attempt to land on it again. Because this is a new rocket. They ain't using the same rockets they used, in the 70s. They're using a more advanced one. They want to make sure that everything works and they can go make the trip there and back without landing on it quite yet. It's kind of like a test run. They plan to land on the moon in the future, but you don't want to do something in just a rocket that maybe has been tested, maybe launched, I don't know, a few times to the atmosphere, had some rocket tests and stuff like that, and send it straight to the moon and land on it. I mean, that just isn't smart. There's got to be a lot of precautions and tests involved in order to send humans safely to the moon and back. So that's my take on that. And then another take is that people think that the original moon landing was faked, because it's not nearly as accessible to watch something like this, or they just weren't alive during that time period. It wasn't, for one, it wasn't accessible to see all the ins and outs of what's going on during the mission like there are now, and all that stuff. And there's a whole flag debacle. Why is the flag saying, why is it blowing in the wind? I mean, my response to that is that they had extended it with wires to keep it upright. So because if it was if it's on the moon, which it was, it would just droop down because there's no wind or anything like that to hold it up. So it would just droop down. So they put wires through it and kept it upright and such. But I definitely believe we landed on the moon back in the 70s. And obviously the reason why we haven't gone back was for no political reason. But now we want to go to the moon, kind of settle it a little bit and mine resources off of it. for a next stage into space travel and to benefit everybody on Earth. But obviously, the United States wants to get those resources first. China's also making plans on taking trips and missions to the moon as well. A lot of people, when they are confronted with like stuff like this, they like to just say, "Nah, I don't believe that's true," and stuff like that, because you can't go brick by brick and just prove to someone who just isn't willing to listen that something like this actually happened and was possible back then. Because now they see it now and they're like, how is this possible? We can't even land on it right now because it took so long, and now we're just going around the moon. We're not even landing on it. And I just think that's a kind of ignorant take, because you're not like, just like I said, just because we haven't gone since that time doesn't mean we were completely incapable of doing so. And the reason, like I said earlier, the reason why we haven't landed on it immediately is because we got to test some things out. You know what I mean? I just think the whole argument of like it was faked and stuff just doesn't hold any weight. I mean, there's all kinds of evidence as to that points towards the landing actually happening and being real. But for some reason, people want to say it's fake and all that stuff, and I just think it's kind of. I mean, I'm gonna say it's dumb. I can honestly see why someone would think it's fake, because, like I said, it was so long ago, and it wasn't nearly as accessible to see the footage. There wasn't as much footage of what was going on during the moon mission, and there's also like some other details that you could probably nitpick that seems that could be head scratching at times. But overall, I mean, if it was faked, then you would think that the Soviet Union, China, and all our competitors during the time, the United States competitors during the time, would have found any possibility in to find out if it was faked or not. And if and when, most likely when they found out that it was faked, and that the United States was broadcasting this to everybody, saying like, "Hey, look at us, we made it to the moon." You would think that the Soviet Union and China jump on that and be like, "Yeah, look at these guys, they fucking faked it, they're idiots," and it would be a complete embarrassment for the United States, and it would have defeated the whole purpose of them going in the first place, which was to show how capitalism in the United States and the Western world was so superior to the Soviet Union and stuff by landing on the moon. If they had faked it, they would run the risk of spies and everything else, because spies were all over the country during the time period, from figuring out and relaying that mission to media outlets and stuff in the Soviet Union, and just completely exposing the United States for the lie that they were showing off and bragging about how it actually happened. And then it would just have been a complete disgrace and everything, and it would have been the United States would have been a fucking laughing stock. So for the United States to run a risk like that and do it so brazenly, I just don't see that happening whatsoever. Like, they would not have been able to get away with doing that at all, point blank, period. So there's just no way that the moon landing in the 70s in the Apollo 11 mission was faked. There's just no freaking way. It was too risky. It would probably been super easy for them to get caught doing it with so many different things. And if an average person can look at something like the flag sticking up and be like, yeah, it's faked, then you would think that the powers that be in the Soviet Union definitely jump on that and have the same thing, and would have completely broadcasted the lies to everybody. And then, like I said, United States, it would have defeated the whole purpose of them going in the first place, which was to stick it to the Soviet Union. So yeah, but it just seems like whenever, now that the Artemis II mission is finally underway and is almost completed, a lot of people are just bringing up this topic again about how we never went to the moon, or we've been incapable of going back ever since we went to the moon, or that's why we didn't go in the first place, because we can't go now. It doesn't make any sense. If you do think, if anyone watching this right now and I can get through to you that the moon landings had not been faked back in the 70s, then I guess do your own research, and if you still can't come to the conclusion, then well, I guess that's uh that's all you got to go off of, and I guess that's your opinion if you want to hold on to it. But I just feel like if you just think about it for a bit and really look at the facts and stuff, the political reasoning, the scientific reasoning, and all that stuff, then I just don't see how you could look at that and be like, yeah, the moon landing was faked. Like I said, I can understand you having that take at a like face value. You'd be like, yeah, like you can't definitively tell me that they actually landed on the moon, because there's not enough evidence there. to prove it, but like if you just really think about it and dig deep into it, it just doesn't make any sense as to why it was faked in the first place. But anyway, guys, that's all I got for this video. I just wanted to bring that up because I've just been seeing it a lot recently on like TikTok and stuff. You know how TikTok is, brain rot and all that shit, and people just want to make a stir and stuff. So, but let me know what you think in the comments. Do y'all actually think that the moon landing for the Apollo 11 and all that was faked, or do you think it actually happened, or what, or you just don't care? But anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. That's all I got for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in another one. Peace.